So we just got back from Chicago Saturday night, so last night, and we were there for 4 nights. Chicago is actually it's an incredible city. Now, based on what my parents told me and what you hear in the media, of course, you would think that you're going to Baghdad. That's just not the case where we were. We were in a really nice area right on the lake coast, the beachfront, right on Lake Michigan. It was a place called Lincoln Park, and we stayed at the Lincoln Hotel Lincoln, and I was blown away. Honestly, I'd never been to Chicago, the city. I'd never been to the inside the city before, at least not in a way where I could see the city. I went to a White Sox game with my uncle and my cousins about 4 years ago, but I don't. We didn't go in like the parts of the city that I would admire, or maybe just at the time I didn't care for the city. But this time going, and I had been like as a kid, my family, I have family that's from there, so going as a kid, we'd go out to the suburbs, but I didn't really see the city, and I don't really remember it because I was young. But going this time, it was really interesting because I started seeing things that I never would have perceived Chicago to have, like amazing architecture, which apparently that's what it's known for, but I was just oblivious to the matter, and culture and character. And it was a really pretty, beautiful part of the city that we were in. And what fascinates me is architecture. I love seeing the different types of architecture, the specifically like the older types, like the Renaissance or the Gothic type of architecture. I have a fascination for it. I hate modern buildings, like just straight lines and squares and windows. I think it's hideous. I think it's just a recession, a decline, I should say a regression, or like just a decline in society, that we've moved towards that. If you think of architecture from 2,000 years ago in Greece or in Rome, you know, that took some, I mean, that's like, it's artistic. And I don't know, it's just beautiful. It does something with the mind. There's a huge psychological factor when it comes to architecture that's overlooked. And you compare that to like Soviet Russia and what they did with their architecture and how they made it look like, you know, communist, straight lines, concrete, small windows, just nothing, no art, nothing to stimulate the mind. That's how I perceive modern architecture whenever I look at those big glass buildings. Anyway, so I'm getting off on a tangent now. But Chicago is really cool, at least the part we were in. Felt safe most of the time, except for one night. There was some bum that kept kind of getting too close to us, and he was yelling at himself. And I didn't like that. But I guess you get that everywhere. We just kind of, we were at the end of our meal. We were sitting outside. It was a nice evening, and there were people all around. And we were just wrapping up our meal, so we got up and left. But yeah, I mean, I got to give Chicago some credit. It's where we were, at least. I keep saying that because all you ever hear about is like it's a war zone over there, and we had a great time. We had a really good time. I got to give Chicago some credit. I would go back where we were and I would vacation there. We were there for work. At least my fiance Sophia was there for work, and I was her hired security for the time being. But I would definitely go back there and vacation. It was really nice. We had a good time. I got some hibiscus tea tonight. Sipping on some hibiscus tea, if you like tea. So, anyways, Chicago was cool. I would give it an A minus, based on my experience, which is pretty good. It was pretty good. We had a nice time. We went and did the architecture tour. So they took us on the cruise and we floated around the city, and we got the whole tour of the different buildings, the architects that built it. And we went by Trump Tower, and we went by, oddly enough, that's the only one I remember the name of, but there were definitely more beautiful ones than Trump Tower. But we had a really good time. That was fun. I recommend that. That was like the most recommended thing that was told to us to go and see, was the architecture tour. It was cool. If you go to Chicago, you definitely need to do that. We had some deep dish pizza from Pequot's. I think it's called Pequot's. Another highly recommended one. I liked it. I thought it was good. I think I prefer, I think it's called Lou Malnati's. I think I would prefer that one. But it was good nonetheless. Sophia had never had one before, so we got it, and we had a nice evening, had a nice time. We biked over there, like we biked around, like it was safe enough to where we could bike around. We weren't worried. People were everywhere, and it was mostly young people, so that was cool. And just a beautiful area. Yeah, we had a great time. We had a really good time. But one of the things that here's something that irks me. Okay, this podcast, I'm generally speaking to the younger generation, my age to younger, men mostly. We went to dinner at the restaurant that was actually at the hotel, and when we got there, we were seated, and we were seated kind of against we were sitting outside, right? So we sat outside, and I was kind of seated against the restaurant, because we were like right on the street. And there's three couples. They were all individual, eating, by themselves. There was one to my left, and there were two to my right. And every one of them, all three of them, the gentleman was sitting back to the street, or back to the, everything that was going on. And the lady was sitting with her back against the wall. That's a big no-no, guys. Like, you got to think a little bit. Where did we go wrong in society? We don't even think about these things anymore. I never sit with my back to the crowd or with my back to the busy street, ever. I'm always aware when I'm in public. And you should be too. Let this be a lesson. You should be too. You should not sit with your back as a gentleman, especially when you're out on a date, with your back to where something can happen. You need to be able to see. You need to be able to see if something's coming. I'm speaking to the gentleman here. You're the protector. We believe in traditional values on this podcast. You're the protector. Okay? Three couples in a row. I'm just thinking, like, what are we doing? You have to be able to see if something is coming. You have to be the protector of your lady. Don't sit with your back to the crowd. Sit with your back against the wall. Sit with your back to where there's no danger behind you and you can keep your eyes out. I think that's like a big no-brainer. And don't ever split the check on the first date. We're not going to go into that, but gentlemen, make sure you're paying for the whole bill on the first date. Anyways, that's my gentleman's etiquette tip of the day. Never sit your back to the crowd. Always be aware. All right. Well, I wanted to go into a topic I've kind of been wanting to talk about today. And that is the worst advice that I have ever received. Worst life advice that I have ever received up until the time being. I was this life advice was given to me when I was 18, maybe 17. And it was given to me by a person that was close to me. And so what they said was, I was at the age where I was getting ready for college. And in fact, I believe I was in my senior year of high school. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in college. And I wasn't real sure. I was a baseball player. I've talked about that on other podcasts previously. And I knew for sure that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play baseball. I didn't really care what else. I had a fascination for recovery, and I had a really good relationship with a sports chiropractor in the town that I grew up. So I was inspired by that. I did want to pursue that at one time, that or physical therapy, something along those lines. And so, I decided eventually that I was going to get into kinesiology, actually, because that's what the chiropractor recommended that I pursue was kinesiology. And so that's what I did. But nonetheless, when I was 18 years old, I didn't really know what I was going to do in life, but I didn't really know what I wanted to pursue in college. And someone told me, someone that should have probably given me some better advice, in a position that they should be giving kids better advice. They told me, they said, what you do in these next 4 years is going to determine what you do the rest of your life. What you do in these next 4 years, 19, 20, 21, 22, is going to determine what you do for the rest of your life. I want you to think about that one for a second. I really want you to think about that one for a second. Especially if you're an entrepreneur and you've already made it. How at 18 years old do you know what you want to do the rest of your life? How do you know what you want to do the rest of your life if you haven't even experienced life? I studied kinesiology. I wanted to be a physical therapist or a chiropractor, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. That didn't happen. Point being, I'm not doing any of that today. Not even close. What you do in these next 4 years will determine what you do the rest of your life. That's not true. Luckily, at the time, I was a bright enough kid that I knew that was bullshit. I was expecting some pretty good advice, went to this person, and that's what they had for me. They're not a bad person, great person, but it did turn out to be a lie. The worst life advice I had ever gotten. And so what I'm getting at and why I say that is because at 18 years old, especially an 18-year-old that grew up in the same town and had the same group of friends his entire life, you haven't even experienced life. 18, 19, 20, 21, you don't really start experiencing life until you get out of college. And so this is just my own experience. I'm not saying this for everybody. I know people that are extremely successful and they studied what they're doing to this day in college and they're 50, 60, 70 years old, like being a lawyer, being a doctor, etc. And I think those professions probably have a lot longer um, what would you call it? People really hang around a lot longer in those careers, but like, if you study psychology or you study English, probably not gonna, what's the attrition rate of those professions? Anyways, so what I'm getting at is you don't really know what you want to do in life before you've even experienced life. You have to get some experience under your belt to know what you actually want to do. And that's why I have something against college, because it's like they try to set your life before you've even experienced life. They try to set your career and you don't even know what's out there. And what's ironic is the same person that told me this, someone very close to them went back to school in their 40s and is now a successful lawyer. They're in their 70s now. Total shift in their life at 40 years old, 40 something years old, went back to school, got their law degree, and is now a successful lawyer into their 70s. It's just ironic that was the advice that I got from that person. Again, nothing against the person, very good person. It was just I didn't like that advice. I knew right away that was not right. And the reason I say that is because if you're someone in that age right now, 18, 19, 20, 21, even 2, 3, 4, 25, you need to listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, because he'll tell you you got time. You're young. You don't even know. You don't know life. You haven't experienced anything. You know this much. How are you going to know what the right path is for you when you haven't even taken a step on the path? How do you know what direction to go when you haven't even taken a step? And so that's what I wanted to get at today is if you're in that age, and even, look, I'm 26, so I really don't speak on, an age older than me, even though it's really irrelevant. You can be 32, 33, up into your 40s and go back to law school. I think it was Colonel Sanders that started KFC whenever he was in his 60s, right? You never know. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old does not dictate what you do the rest of your life. That may be a controversial statement. I don't know. We're going to find out. It does not dictate what you do the rest of your life. You have to have experience. And so if you're in that age range, just know that you can do anything with your life, right? We know that. You really can. You can do some really cool stuff that you're not going to learn in college. College is for employees, for the most part. Unless you're going into something like law school, medical school. That's a little different, right? But college is made to turn you into an employee. I think that might be controversial. We'll find out. So just know that, like, go and do some things, right? And it's okay if you go to college, but just have an open mind to, you may not end up, how do I say that right? You may end up doing something differently than what you went to school for in college, and that's okay. And the odds are, and I'm pretty sure if you looked up the statistics, the majority of the time, people do end up doing something differently. So it was just funny that I got that advice. I don't know. It's always stuck with me because even going through college was, I was a good student. I was an AB student. I'm not a super intelligent person, but I'm a pretty smart guy. And, I get the work done, especially when I wanted to play on the baseball team. After baseball was over, it was like, dude, why am I still here? I ended up quitting college, actually, 21 hours short of graduating. Most people are like, oh, you're stupid. Why didn't you just finish? Um, why? Look at what I'm doing now. It has nothing to do with what I did in college. I would just waste another, I think it was 3 semesters, two semesters. No, I went to work. I started experiencing life. I learned some things. I quit college because I had a job working with some technology that was from Europe. It was a bioaccelerator called Techer Therapy. And it basically, it sped up the metabolism at the cellular level. And we paired this with manual therapy. And I got the opportunity at 21 and 22 years old to work with professional athletes, to work with general population, people that were in extreme pain, geriatrics. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have a certification. I helped a lot of people. I helped a lot of people get out of pain. I helped a lot of people recover. We had one guy that was a triathlete, and he fell off of his bike and broke his radial head. And what would have taken, from my understanding, about 6 weeks to heal, we had him healed in 3 weeks. X-rays to prove it, like completely healed because of our technology. That's not something you learn in college. That's not the company I worked for brought that to the States and got it FDA approved. They were the only, I believe they were the only ones with this Techer therapy in the States at the time. I think it's a lot more popular now, but even now it's not well known. I mean, it was a $25,000 machine, each one of them. So they're expensive, but man, they're awesome. That was cool. That was a cool experience. I learned a lot from that. Right. Next thing I did was I went and pursued professional ballroom dance. Now you might tell yourself, but dude, I don't want to go do dance. It's not the point. Point is I went in and I learned about sales. I learned about tracking KPIs. I learned about customer service. I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to build a client progression schedule. I learned a lot of good things because I kept on experiencing life. I kept on trying new things. And here's a side note, and this will go into the gentleman's etiquette tip of the day 2.0 is you need to learn how to use tools and fix things. My dad can do just about everything. He can weld, he can do carpentry, he can do plumbing, he can do electrical. I mean, if he wanted to build a house, he could by himself. Like, he can do it all. And he's very good at it. Now, I wish I would have paid more attention. Oh, auto mechanics too. He's fixing to pull the engine out of my first car. It was a 2004 Runner. And he's going to pull the engine out of that. It's a 4-cylinder. He's putting a Mercedes diesel in it. He's all hyped about it, but he's going to do it by himself. That's just who he is. He's just a DIYer. He's just that generation. I wish I would have paid more attention whenever I was younger and around him and learned more about that. But I started realizing it when I got into my closer to my mid-20s, that how important that is. The skills that he has to be able to just fix things, how important for a man that is. And so it all started kind of whenever I was we were, I don't remember where we were living now, but something happened to the tub, and it was actually the shower. Something happened to the shower, and it wasn't like producing pressure out of the shower head. And this was I was always handy, I was pretty good with things, but I wasn't like kind of fix things on the spot type of guy. And I almost was just like, oh God, we got to call a plumber. And then I was just like, you know what? Like, I thought to myself, how hard could this actually be? Yeah, like the plumber I'm going to call out here, and this is where you gentlemen need to think for a second. The plumber I'm going to call out here, he's not going to be any smarter than me. I'm not calling a master plumber or whatever out. I'm just calling a handyman. He's no smarter than me. He's no more qualified at anything than I am. Odds are half the time you call a handyman out, they may not even exactly know how to fix something. They just look at it and figure it out. That's exactly what I did. I looked at it. I got it pulled up a YouTube video. You can learn anything on YouTube. Screw college. Go to YouTube. You learn for free. You learn whatever you want on YouTube. I just did a little YouTube video, fixed it in like 10 minutes. We had pressure. That was the start of understanding that as a man, you need to be able to know how to fix things. And it's not hard. It's just really not hard. You just have to do it. All you need, and here's some quick advice. All you need is a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, and maybe a hammer. And those three tools will get you by in a lot of situations. And I have a drill's good to have too. I got all the tools now. I didn't at the time. A drill's really good to have too. I love having a drill. But just learn how to do things yourself. Be self-sufficient. Be self-reliant. That's what I'm getting at is be more self-reliant. Number one, you're going to be able to save money doing that when you don't have a lot of money as a young kid, right? You're going to be able to save money. You're going to save time in a way, kind of. Depends. You're going to learn more and more. It's good to continue to educate yourself on how to do things. And one of the big things is girls like that. Girls have respect for that. When they see a guy that can't do anything, I'm sorry, that doesn't know anything, that sits with their back to the crowd, can't fight his way out of a paper bag, can't can barely turn the faucet off. Like, I don't know if that even made sense. I'm just kind of saying, like, can't do anything, can't fix anything. It's not attractive. You're going to attract a better partner, a more quality partner, whenever you have skill sets, whenever you're a quality person. So I'm kind of going all over the place here, but the point is, learn to be self-sufficient. Now, this is going to kind of take me into, I guess I'm going to go away now from the worst advice I've ever received. And that was, what you do in these next 4 years, which is college, is going to determine what you do the rest of your life. That's not true. Don't ever let somebody tell you that. Because first of all, I can name a number of people that went to college for something and aren't even doing what they do in their degree, or a number of people that end up switching their degree because they just don't know. You don't know until you start. You don't know until you have experience. You start gaining experience. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. So don't take that advice from someone that says that. Learn to be self-sufficient, right? Don't put your back to the crowd as a gentleman. And so this is kind of taking me into what I'm doing now currently with the exterior home cleaning business. There's still things I don't know how to do that I'm asked to do with my business. but I know it's not complicated. I've just never done it. In a simple YouTube video and just analyzing the situation makes me sometimes 800, sometimes $1,200. You know, for example, I'm going to go and rebuild the roof on a shed for a friend of mine, and you know, I've never done roofing. I was in the roofing industry, but I wasn't rebuilding the roofs. It was on a different. I was in the marketing department, I guess you would say, of the roofing industry. So I've never repaired roofs, never rebuilt roofs, but it's a shed. How hard can it be? You look up a few YouTube videos. I've got a skill set enough now to know how to do things. And not just YouTube, but ChatGPT. That thing's changing the world. I've learned so much from ChatGPT, and I know a lot of people are gonna you can't trust ChatGPT. It hasn't swayed me wrong yet. It hasn't let me down yet. Just don't look up anything that's like conspiracy or political, and it'll 99% of the time give you something accurate. You know, I'm sure it's got some sort of algorithm that's got an agenda, but if you're looking up how to fix your car, I fixed my truck I don't know how many times. I don't have any mechanical abilities at all. I feel like such a superhero whenever I fix my truck because you know it's got 150,000 miles on it now, and sometimes sensors are going out and batteries going bad and the terminals are corroding. I have no idea. I have no experience with automotives, with mechanics, but I'll just chat GPT the symptoms. What could it be? What's the most likely? It'll spit out all the most likely things it could be. And then I just go to work. I just read it. I start looking up YouTube videos if I need to. I go to work and I fix it. It doesn't take me long. I don't have to put it in the shop and cost me $800 to $3,000. No, I fixed my truck for like I think it was like $60 and it wouldn't even run. I was breaking down on the side of the road. I fixed it for like $60. ChatGPT and YouTube. Get a life, dudes. Come on. You got to step up. This generation's got to step up. And I think they are. I'm seeing good things. I'm really impressed by some Gen Zers. They I think there's a group of them that are really stepping up, and it's cool to see. It's really cool to see. But I want you to think about what's the worst advice what's the worst advice that you've ever been given? And I'm really curious. I want you to put it in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what the worst advice is and kind of see what I can say on that if I have anything to say on it. But guys, you just never know where you're going to go. You never know what opportunities are going to present themselves. If you don't know anything about life, you can't know what direction you're going to go. And that's okay. You got to go experience life first. But I'll say this, just because you don't know doesn't mean you don't work hard. I think, and I see that in certain people, and I'm not going to mention names, but it's like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what do you want to do as a career? Or, you know, do you have like an idea? Do you want to start a business? Like, what's kind of like, what motivates you? I don't know. Okay. Like, do we have anything there? Like, cause you know, you just kind of, you don't do anything. You don't have any drive. You don't have any aspirations. You lay in bed all day. What do you want to do? I don't know. So don't let an I don't know dictate your work ethic. You can still be a hard worker and not know. I know too many people that are like that. Like, I don't know. So that means I'm just not going to work. I'm not going to work hard. No, that isn't how it works. Let me tell you this. Some of you may be too young to understand, and I'm not going to speak like I'm some wise, Zen master. I'm not. I've got more experience than a lot of people my age and more drive than a lot of people my age. And I'm proud of that. There's not a lot of people out there that are like me. I mean, there's people that are obviously more hardworking than me, and there's people that are more intelligent than me and more successful at my age. But I am pretty proud of what I'm doing and what I've done. And I'm pretty proud of my work ethic, and I will speak on that. And so, backing up to what I was saying about not understanding this, you are in a time in history where it is, in American history, where it is so difficult to build a savings, to own a house, not necessarily to make good money, because from my understanding, it's almost easier than ever to make money, but some people just don't want to do that. If you take the traditional route and you're just working a job and you're making $4,000, $5,000 a month, it's really hard to build a savings, and you're living in the city like Houston or like Chicago. Chicago is expensive. It's hard to build a savings. It's hard to make enough money to buy a house. So you have to figure something out. You have to get a side hustle. You have to start a business. You have to work hard in today's age. You have to work extremely hard. And I'm talking to the younger generation here. I don't know how much harder it's going to get, but it could get a lot harder. And so as soon as that reality hits you, you need to decide, hey, am I going to get out of bed now and go and start working on myself, making myself better, building skills, making money? I know 19-year-olds that are out there making $25,000, $30,000 a month. Go getters. Talked to one. I had lunch with one a couple of months ago. It was a business meeting, a sales meeting. And I'm sitting there talking with this guy. Guy's from Cuba. His English is pretty good, but I'm sitting here talking with this guy, sharp as a tack, well-spoken, motivated. You can tell he's motivated. I'm like, dude, how old are you? He's like, I'm 19. I'm like, dude, you got to be kidding me. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's the group of Gen Zers I'm talking about. I think that's Gen Z. I think he'd be considered Gen Z. That's the group of kids I'm talking about that they're doing good. They're changing the world. They're going to change the world. That group right there. So, anyways, that's kind of my spiel for this podcast. Go learn some things, guys. Go learn some skills. You're not going to learn skills by playing video games. Sorry to say it. All you gamers out there, you can game. That's fine. I don't. I used to when I was younger. I had a little bit of addiction about it, so I had to, I never could get a console. I don't have an addictive personality, but like games, I would like stay on games for hours, especially in college. You can ask my roommates. So I never got a console, for myself. Like I never bought a console. I couldn't afford one anyways, but don't let the games take over your life. I get it. Some guys are making a lot of money streaming video games. If you're that guy, good for you. That's cool. But if it's not you, you got to decide, hey man, I don't know anything. I don't have any skills. That's okay. Go learn some. You're young. You can go learn pretty quickly too. So just get after it, guys. It's a tough world out there. It's a really tough world, and you know, you'll find out when you get out in the world if you're not quite that age yet where you have to fend for yourself, you have to pay your own bills. It's a tough world, and you're going to get smacked in the face if you're not ready for it. So I'll end it with that. Get after it. Go learn some skills. Chicago's awesome. Go see Chicago. I'll say that for sure. Go see Chicago, Lincoln Park area. Careful where you go. Apparently, might get mugged or shot. Don't sit with your back to the crowd. Seriously, ever. If you're hearing me say this, the next time and every time after that, you go to dinner, you go on a date, remember these words. Don't sit with your back to the crowd. Women aren't going to understand that. Men, we're the protectors. That's how we're wired. Okay? Learn skills. And watch out for some advice that you get. Some advice is just not good. So, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.